The Hornets Hive. It's a show that offers you all the build-up to the remaining Premier League fixtures, both home and away, as we see out the 2019-20 season. This evening, Watford travel to the London Stadium to take on West Ham United, with both clubs currently level on 34 points in the Premier League table. The winner of this evening's fixture will be taking a huge step towards Premier League safety. Whether you're nervous, excited, optimistic or pessimistic, we hope you'll sit back and at least try to enjoy the next hour as we build up to kick-off. So the Hornets come into this evening's match in good form. Back-to-back 2-1 home victories against both Norwich and Newcastle does mean that confidence is high ahead of taking on David Moyes' West Ham side, who themselves are fresh from a 4-0 victory last time out over Norwich City. The message from Nigel Pearson, Troy Deeney and the rest of the Watford playing staff does remain the same. Our destiny is in our own hands. Victory this evening will make for an uncomfortable weekend for those teams in and around us in the Premier League table. The Hornets Hive enables all Hornets fans to enjoy the game with their friends by using the inbuilt watch-along facility. We would ask that all fans please observe the rules around social distancing and rely on the watch-along facility as a safer way to enjoy the game. As part of that facility, we'd love to hear from you via the text function that is available on the right-hand panel of your screens. So please do click on the username that you currently see, and that will enable you to change it to your own. And then pop your question or comments in the box, and we will put as many as possible to our panel throughout the evening. So on that note, we are joined by two very special guests tonight to help us count down to kick-off. First up, with tonight's opposition in mind, is a player who started his career at West Ham before being signed by Liam Brady for Celtic for £1.5 million in 1992. From there, he moved on to Ipswich Town, Leicester City, and then went on to make 30 appearances for Watford during a 3-year stay at Vicarage Road. So it's a very warm Hornets Hive welcome and good evening to Stuart Slater. Hi, Stu. Well, it's good to have you with us. Now, Paul Robinson joined us the other day with a shaved head. It was a proper lockdown #1 all over. I hear you have had a haircut, especially for this too, but not quite the Robbo approach.
Yes. My good friend Richard Johnson obviously phoned me up during the week and said, would I want to be part of this special evening? So I said, what does it entail? Because I'm quite scruffy, lockdown, no haircuts. So yeah, for tonight, I've had a little bit of a haircut, tried to make a little bit of an effort.
Well, we appreciate the efforts. Now, before we move on to introducing our next guest, I must get this out of the way. Due to your West Ham connections, we have put you in a difficult position tonight, haven't we?
You certainly have, Emma. I had a great 3 years at Watford, but they're a great side, and I love my time here, and I always got an affinity for my old teams. But growing up through West Ham, I think I've been associated with West Ham 30 years, from
Wow.
12 years of age to playing, to coaching, to be an ambassador, even to this day. So it's not a nice situation to be in, obviously, because it's a Watford, side. But I try my best.
Well, we look forward to picking your brains anyway and sort of getting behind enemy lines in that sense. We are in separate rooms now, but we will be watching the game together, which is a shame that there's no goggle box cameras on us, because that will make for interesting viewing. Now, our second guest this evening is a familiar face to Hornets Hive viewers. He's a striker who Graham Taylor signed for the Hornets back in 1998 from Carlisle United and scored arguably one of the most memorable goals in the club's history. That was our second in the 1999 playoff final victory over Bolton. He's also served as both a manager and even as a chairman since hanging up his boots. So it's a Hornets Hive welcome back to Allan Smart, who's joining us live from north of the border in Perth, Scotland. Is that right?
It's very true, Emma. Yes, back in Scotland, back home to see my mum and dad for the first time in, I think, this year.
Oh, wow. How's that been?
That's been nice. I arrived last night and it was just nice to catch up and nice to be allowed to be in the bubble.
Well, it's good to have you with us with your purple shirt on.
It's navy blue, but apparently the lights north of the border are maybe not working. Struggle for electric up here.
Okay, I tell you what, first things first tonight, before you give us any of your score predictions or thoughts on the game, please use the chat function to settle this debate, because Stuart, Allan and I have been on for the last 15 minutes talking to each other. And Stuart, we're both convinced it's very much purple, isn't it?
I am convinced, Emma, yes.
But if anyone can see a navy shirt, please do let us know. Use the chat function and let us know who you are. Now, Allan, the last game you were with us, dare I mention it, was Chelsea. In your absence, we have won twice since then. So if we don't get the right result tonight, well, we know what the problem is, I think, don't we?
Yeah, I think on the quiet. I think, but it's one of these games, isn't it? I think they can be licking their lips to get about it. I think they're going to hopefully, get about it and get a positive result.
Yeah, it's a huge game, isn't it? You know, I've heard so many people in the build-up to it compare it to a cup final, but it was only this time last year we had an actual cup final. And I don't know about you, but I wasn't this nervous, Allan. This feels a lot bigger.
Yeah, I went to the cup final as well, and I was disappointed. I think they let themselves down as a group of men and individuals. I think they're better than their performance on the day, and I think they must have been kicking themselves. I think take that spirit, that commitment that gets you to a final into tonight's game, and like you said earlier, it's in their own hands. I think set pieces will be key tonight, and I hope they stand strong. And they've had off the back of two good results. They're certainly hitting a bit of form, and they definitely need points on the board tonight.
Now, Stuart, give us an insight into the West Ham camp then, because when we all left here after the last game against Newcastle United, we were so jubilant. I think a lot of us felt, we're nearly there, nearly got our noses over the line. And then, of course, all the results elsewhere. Was that very much the same in the West Ham camp as well?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, no one foresee Bournemouth winning, Villa winning at that time, both teams winning. And it makes it massive for tonight. I mean, I know the both managers are playing it down, rightly so. Obviously, to keep the pressure off the players, but whoever wins today really is virtually out of it. If West Ham win today, their goal difference is superior. So there's so much to play for it. So yeah, it was disappointing to see those results, but the big and the good thing is that the destiny is in both teams' hands, and that's what you want with 3 games to go.
With that, what kind of approach do you think you're expecting from Watford tonight, Allan? Because as Stuart said there, whoever wins, you think is more or less over the line, but equally, you don't want to lose, do you? So you can see why you might want to go for it, but then at the same time, you just don't want to be conceding either.
100%. It's a must not lose game tonight. But I said it earlier, it's winner stays on, isn't it? So it is one of these games where I think get a foothold in the game, keep it tight, try not do anything silly, play the way you're facing, all the basic stuff you're taught as a kid. Don't give anything away early, and don't give the home team any encouragement, and get a foothold in the game and go from there. And I think, they've got to get that platform right. And if they can add to the points total tonight, that's a good night at the office.
For you, Stuart, is it more must win or more must not lose?
I think that must not lose, definitely. Obviously, 2 games after this, Man United away, they're on fire. You don't really want to go into the last game of the season against Aston Villa, West Ham, at home, with them winning their midweek game, because then that would be massive. Then it would be, you've got 3 games, and if you win one of those games, you might as well go for it. And tonight, for West Ham and Watford, really, I think, is the best opportunity.
Well, your shirt colour seems to be dividing fans so far, Allan. Tezza has said it's purple. Actually, Tezza did say earlier it's navy, so even he can't decide. Yeah. We've had Big Mac 101 get in touch to say it's purple. So I think at the moment, another vote for purple as well. Remember, we are a family club. Come on, you Horns. Use it. It was purple.
A 2-for-1 deal. Here's the purple one.
So at the moment, you are a bit outnumbered. It does seem to be as though people think it is purple. So do keep your suggestions coming in on the chat function there. What colour is Allan Smart's shirt? Big debate this evening. Now, today's game is match 7 of the remaining 9 fixtures in the 2019-20 season. It is flying by, isn't it? Let's take a look at the other remaining matches then we have left. So Those two final fixtures, they are here. Manchester City, followed by Arsenal. Alan, it's not a favourable run-in, is it? Which really, really puts the onus on tonight.
No, and I think, Stuart alluded to earlier, I think both teams have to be going pedal to the metal tonight, and they've got to feel that this is a game, that there's 3 points available. Manchester City, absolutely superb. They've been a credit to the Premier League over the last few years. Guardiola's teams are full of zest and commitment going forward, and they've got goals in them. So if you're going to get anything at Man City, you're going to have to score a few. The Arsenal game, I always feel Watford do quite well against Arsenal. And I think they always give them. I think they might nick something. And if it's a game where they've got to get something, I don't think they should be too afraid. But tonight is the game that they've got to really go for it. And I think it could be a stalemate.
Oh gosh, Stuart, what's the West Ham take on Watford's last two fixtures? Are you looking at and thinking, oh, there's no chance they're going to get anything out of those? Yeah.
Like Al said, the Arsenal game, that's the one that you think, hang on a minute, on their day. I mean, I always look at the fixtures and results at Watford, albeit that I'm working at West Ham on match days. The result against Liverpool was a fantastic achievement, and they fully deserved that. So if they can do that against Liverpool, albeit it was February time, I see no reason why they can't do that against definitely Arsenal. I mean, Al did allude to the Man City. I mean, they're just a phenomenal side, and they've got goals galore. So obviously, Watford would have to score a few goals to do that. But you've got 3 opportunities to get a result, and why not try and go for it in the first opportunity?
Well, it's a big week or so ahead. User 8193, don't forget to change your name so we know who you are, but it says, I can confirm it's navy, but blimey, it does look purple north of the border. Right, time now to take a look back at some classic matches from the Hornets Hive archive now. This evening, we are looking back to some recent performances against tonight's opponents, West Ham.
Pereyra. On by Deulofeu. Pereyra again. Deulofeu once more. Magnificent. Brilliantly taken goal. No way back now for West Ham. 3 minutes remaining.
The context is easy to forget, isn't it? As Mikel Antonio goes down, caught by Femenia, penalty. Up against Foster. And Noble scores. Perfect penalty into the corner. His second goal of the game for the skipper. 4-1 West Ham now. Here's the corner that follows. He's there again, Antonio. It's off the bar this time. And scrambled in. Allan's done it again.
Now, Stuart, you've just said there, as we've been watching that footage, you're quite pleased Deulofeu isn't involved tonight. Because it's true, he has caused you a few problems, hasn't he, over recent years?
He has. I like the sort of player. I haven't seen him week in, week out like the Watford supporters do, but every time that he's played at London Stadium or against West Ham, he's caused us no end of problems. I mean, his trickery, taking players on, he's a player that I really, really do like. Obviously, consistency might play a part, but on his day, he can be a match winner, so I'm pleased he's not there tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Just looking at Watford's record at London Stadium, it's not bad. I think 60% of Watford's Premier League wins against West Ham have been away from home. Alan, I'm sure you remember that bonkers game. I'm just checking. Yeah, it was 2016 when we came back from 2 goals behind and won 4-2. There does seem to be something about London Stadium where it's rarely that dull, is it, when we go and visit there?
No, and I think whilst they maybe wouldn't want the scoreline to be that sort of ping pong, and they might want the game to be tighter, I think they're coming off the back of a couple of strong performances. They've got their tails up. I mean, the Chelsea games, I felt going to Chelsea, it's always a struggle. I think with the lack of crowd as well when you're at the bottom, it makes it doubly hard. I think this West Ham team, I think they concede goals. Stuart mentioned earlier that, they'd had the first clean sheet in a long time. And I think that's the one thing they've got. For want of a better time, they get at a ball. I think if Welbeck can get on the ball and get at the young fullback that's playing, and, there's an opportunity there to get about it. And I think they've got to feel that they can go there and score tonight.
Yeah, Stuart, I was quite shocked to read this, but West Ham are looking to pick up back-to-back Premier League wins for the first time since August 2019. should they win tonight. Why do you think they've been so inconsistent?
I think, we've had a transition. Obviously, with Pellegrini leaving, David Moyes has come in and he's tried to figure out different formations, different personnel. And he's gone back to the good old hard-working, good character that will, put their 100% lives on the line for the team. So I think the consistency of players, the personnel, I think we've got it. West Ham have got it last 2 or 3 games that they've got a consistent team going out there tonight. Whereas, we've had Anderson, Haller, Lanzini, all these sort of players in and out the top. And when things are not going well, obviously managers change them.
Well, 45 minutes to go until kick-off at London Stadium. Huge game tonight as we take on West Ham. Here on Hornets Hive, we always try to bring you exclusive access that's only available to those of you watching this programme. This week, we spoke to current Manchester United and ex-Hornet striker Odion Ighalo, who has some very fond memories of playing for Watford at London Stadium against our opponents this evening, West Ham, as we mentioned, back in 2016.
I would say my last goal for Watford in Premier League before I left, I think it was against West Ham in their new stadium. I think I was the first away player to score in the stadium. I think that game was their first game in the new stadium. And I played as the first opponent player to score in that stadium. So it's I think so. That was one of the highlights to me in my career.
It's quite strange now seeing Odion Ighalo in a Watford shirt. So just a quick word from you, Allan. How pleased are you for him, to see what he's doing at his dream club, Manchester United?
I think it's a fantastic move, and I actually think he's done really, really well. I wasn't sure how he would settle in. He scored some big goals for them. He's helped them get a bit of momentum. I think he's done everything and more, and I think you'd expect him to stay at the club. And it's amazing, and I think it's a credit. And if any young football players are looking at, Ighalo's move there, you've got to keep the faith. You've got to keep working. To come from China and to drop in there, absolutely fantastic. And he's done ever so well. And I firmly believe he'll be here this time next year.
Well, we're counting down to kick off here on the Hornets Hive. Keep your comments coming in using the chat function. We've had one here from user 6881. Come on, you Horns, and burst those bubbles. Sorry, Stuart. I think there's going to be a little bit more of that before we kick off at 8 o'clock tonight. Now, having heard Allan and Stuart's thoughts about this evening's big game, it is now time to take a look back at both of them in action. So first of all, here are some of Allan's best bits.
Really remarkable record they have. Muta comes away with the ball. Little touch to Robinson. He's smart! Smartest of the smart! Allan Smart puts Watford ahead. The glorious strike.
Smart finding Smith. Gold shirts going into the area. Hinchcliffe has slipped. And Smart! Watford have a goal! And Watford might just have a win.
Vuta. Well, get past the first challenge. Smart! Yes, in the end it's gone in.
Played for Smart, that's beautifully done. 1 inch. 8 were queuing up for it. Johnson. Can Smart get there for?
Well, some great moments there, Allan. Just out of curiosity, I can't imagine that this would be the case, but do you ever get a little bit tired of talking about that playoff final goal? Because you must get so many people asking you about it.
I think it's a bit of a mixed bag, Emma. You're happy that you've got something to talk about, I've got to be honest. And it's a fantastic thing to reflect on. But I think Stuart will tell you, anybody that's involved in sport, it's always about the next thing and it's probably my worst thing in life, that my partner tells me I don't enjoy the moment. I'm always looking at what's next, and it's always what's next and what's coming up. But what a fantastic thing to have a reference point, and I'm proud of it. Of course I am. And to be fair, the people that have come up to me and said this, it's been a nice day in their life. I think that's where you realise when you get older, it's a nice thing to have done.
Yeah, there's a lovely photo, which I think our viewers should be able to see, of Graham Taylor in the middle holding up the playoff final trophy and Nick Wright the other side, both of you in bright yellow baseball caps. How well do you remember those kind of things? I mean, you just commented there saying your partner said maybe you don't appreciate these things enough at the time, but can you take yourself back to that moment just by shutting your eyes?
Yeah, I think the bizarre point was probably the 10, 15 steps after the ball's hit the net. That's the bit where you just do not feel that you're in your own body, bizarrely. And I think Righty alluded to it not that long ago, that myself and him got taken away to the press conference and we weren't in the dressing room after the game. So that was probably the part that we missed the most, although we would neither of us would change what happened on that day. But we didn't get to share the emotion in the dressing room right after the game, and we should have really put the press on ice.
Yeah.
Nice. Sorry, Emma.
It's inexperienced, though, isn't it? You don't know. You've never been there before, right? It's the same. And well, you're like a kid in a candy shop. You go away and do the press, and really, you should have probably just said, "Look, we'll see you in 10 minutes or 15 minutes." And me and him were in the bath on our own.
Go on, Stuart. What were you going to add to that?
Just going to say to Al there. I mean, how nice is it though, Al, that people keep talking about that, come up to you all the time. You've created a memory for so many people, obviously, and for them to recollect that, as if, it was a great memory in their lives. How proud, like you said, you've alluded, how proud must you feel, but you've affected somebody's life by scoring that goal.
Yeah, just they're probably a bit older now, and they say I was 8 when I was there, or I was 10, and thinking, geez, and there's my son now. But yeah, Stu, that's why you play the sport. It wasn't for money, it wasn't for anything else. No. You just wanted to be successful. You wanted to get the adulation of the crowd, and you wanted to do something. And I'm fortunate that I managed to do that. It was an FA Cup final I wanted to score in, but I'm delighted to have done it in that match.
To score at Wembley is just amazing, isn't it? As I said,
a boyhood dream, even. And you know why, Stuart? Because Ray Stewart scored a penalty against Liverpool in the League Cup final.
Okay.
And of course he's a Stanley man, and I used to see him in the summer as a young boy walking through the village. So Raymond was my inspiration to try and play at Wembley.
Brilliant.
Wow.
Fantastic.
Well, having heard from Allan about his Watford career, it's only right that we also learn a little more about you, Stuart. So our viewers now should be able to see some footage of your playing time in a Watford shirt. So, I mean, you've made it very clear tonight, and it's totally fine. You're a West Ham man. You spent a lot of time at that club. But what about your Watford memories? How do you reflect on your time at Watford?
It was amazing. I mean, obviously, Kenny Jackett was a big inspiration for me to come here. At the time, I was at Leicester, and it was in the Premiership. And for me, I wanted to play football, and I wanted to be wanted. And Kenny Jackett, I just never stopped phoning me up. And I was at Leicester, and I was going to sign a 2.5-year deal, but his persistence and just wanted me to build a team around me. That's why I was here, and I was so grateful for that, because the memories that I've got, though I only played 30 games because I was injured. I had two, 3 operations on my Achilles, and I can remember Graham Taylor taking over, and he just, God bless him. I love Graham Taylor, but he used to say that, we're paying you, but you're not playing. You're a great player, but we're not seeing the best of you. And I didn't want to be injured. But even though I was injured a lot of time, it was just a beautiful club, a family club, great people. And I treasure those memories so fondly.
Well, I have to say, despite, stating very loud and clear your allegiance with West Ham this evening, you got some love coming in on the chat function, which is always a good sign. Yeah. We've had one user get in touch saying, Slater's love versus York City, what a goal. Do you remember that one?
I think I'm surprised that you've got any footage of me, but that was one of me. But that was a nice goal. And obviously, that was one of me. I think I only scored 1 goal because I was injured a lot, but I enjoyed my time here. But yeah, that's nice that people still think about that game, and pleased about that.
Well, it's great to have you.
As a Scotsman, there's a lot of people love you here. When you signed for Celtic from West Ham, was a lot of love off of the border, let me tell you. And when I was watching when you were young, absolutely magnificent when you joined Celtic.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, Al, but I think most of my supporters are Rangers supporters. They're the, but they're the ones that love me because when I was at Celtic, we never won anything. So I think every Rangers supporter loved me because we didn't win anything. Was really? Is that hyped up? But yeah, I think it's all the Rangers supporters that love me up there.
Well, it's great being able to look back, but turning our attention back to tonight's game, then it is time to take a look at the teams. So you should be able to see the starting lineups now on the display. We'll start with that Watford side. So one change to the side that beat Newcastle at the weekend. Tom Cleverley in for Etienne Capoue. I understand that there's a hamstring issue there with Caps. So unfortunately, he's not on the bench this evening either. Allan, fans are naturally bound to be a little bit disappointed by that. The Caps isn't fit for this one at all. But Tom Cleverley, there's no denying it. He brings a lot of energy, which is going to be key in a big game like this.
And experience, I think that's key as well. And I think he's a different player. He's got a bit of energy, and he nicks a goal. It'll be interesting to see. It's a great game as a player. It's a game you'd love to be involved in. It's not a game you'd want to miss tonight because it's arguably the biggest game in the season. And whilst he doesn't need headlines, he's the type of player that can get the headlines after the game. He's capable of hitting a world day. He's capable of changing the game in the blink of an eye.
Yeah. Merlin's been in touch to say, I am concerned about the lack of Capoue. Few other questions coming in. Oh, we've had a user in Doha, Simon, who just wanted to say hi. So nice to have you with us, Simon. I'll throw you a quick question, Stuart, on the West Ham team. Ben Johnson, I think they're only changing for Ryan Fredericks at right back. Can you tell us a bit more about that? I'm not too sure Watford fans will be familiar with who Ben is. He's quite a young player, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a young lad that's come through the academy. Quick and strong, powerful, but obviously inexperienced. It was a bit of a blow that Fredericks is not there, but they've tried another young lad, so that could be an area where Watford possibly could get at West Ham. With the inexperience, we've struggled a little bit with crosses coming in and stopping crosses in from wide areas. So I know David Moyes would know his personnel, but that's an area where Watford could get us.
Well, let's take a look at that in a little bit more detail now, shall we? It is time to join our football analytics journalist, the co-host of the Double Pivot podcast, who has consulted for the likes of ESPN, as well as drilling down into the data in a way that very few do. We also love having him on the show because he always gives us reasons to be optimistic. It's a big Hornets Hive. Welcome back to Mike Goodman. Hi, Mike.
Hey, Emma. It's nice to be the bearer of good news on this side. The stats have been generally kind to Watford.
Well, after joining us just before 7 o'clock in the morning, I think, the last couple of games, certainly the one against Newcastle, I imagine you're probably quite looking forward to tonight.
Yeah, it's a much more humane time for me this time around, that's for sure.
What time is it over there?
Oh, it's 2:30 in the afternoon. It's perfect.
Okay, fine. All right, well, hopefully you've got a nice clear head for this. So we'll start with West Ham. I think you've identified that one of the key factors in them staying out of the bottom three is a change to their midfield selection since the restart. Perhaps you can tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so they bought Thomas Souček in January, and he didn't play a lot before the break, but he has been sort of a mainstay of this midfield now since the restart. And the thing about West Ham is that they've just been a quite poor defensive team all season long. If you look at the goals they've conceded, they're in the bottom five, but if you look at expected goals conceded, so you look at the quality of the shots they've given up, only Aston Villa has been worse. They've been a midfield that's been very easy to play through. And especially when they were relying on Declan Rice and Mark Noble to play in a double pivot. So what they've done is they've brought in Souček, and Souček either plays with Rice or with Rice and Noble. And that has made a defensive difference. Before the break, they did it twice, but only against really big teams, against Manchester City and against Liverpool. It's been much more of a consistent move since the break. And while that doesn't make them a strong defensive team, it makes them somewhat less weak in the middle of the field and less able to get passed through. And what we're seeing this week is, again, it's the three of them with Noble in front, not Fornals, which is not all that surprising given that it's the midfield that, defeated Norwich 4-0 in the last match. But, what we might see if they need a goal later is that Fornals will move from the wing to play in front of Souček and Rice, and that's sort of a good mix for West Ham.
Ted has been in touch using the chat function, Mike, to give you a new nickname, Mystic Mike. What do you make of that?
As long as I'm right more than I'm wrong, I'm happy.
Well, the last two times you've certainly been right. So fingers crossed that comes to fruition once more this evening. Mike, thank you so much for your time. We are going to have to leave it there, half an hour to go until kickoff at London Stadium. So we'll let you enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
All right. Thanks, Emma. Have a good one.
Thank you, Mike. Now, remember, the Hornets Hive is your show. It's all about the fans. We love hearing from you on every match day. So do continue to keep using the text function in the bottom right-hand corner of the watch along function on your screens to get in touch. Matt2890 says, let's hope Sarr can run rings around them with his pace. Another big game from Dawson tonight, please. Big Mac 101 says, we will win 4-0 and give Antonio a taste of his own medicine. Welbeck, 4 goals. Allan, can you see it being any kind of open game as crazy as that?
No, I think I played with David Moyes when we were at Preston North End together, and I think the one thing I would say is he's structured, he's disciplined. He'll not want his team to go out and play wide open. I think they'll be well drilled. I noticed they're getting more opportunities. They're getting more opportunities off set pieces. They are well organised and well structured under Moisey, so I don't think it'll be wide open at all.
And a quick one for you, Stuart. Antonio worries me, and so does Souček from corners. We don't defend those well at the best of times, and he looks about 9'6". I mean, hopefully you can confirm he's not that tall, is he?
No, I don't think so. No, I don't think so. It's just been a handful. I mean, but I think me and Al spoke about it before. It's about the delivery as well. If the delivery is good, then it's very difficult as a defender if the runs are good, to defend against. So, Bowen's come in and made some good deliveries. So, they are key men for the West Ham, really, those from set pieces.
All right. Well, we are a little under 30 minutes away from kickoff. It is now time to join one of our international supporters groups. So far, we've been here, there, and everywhere. And tonight, we're in Ottawa, in Canada, and Kevin Parker from the Ottawa Hornets is joining us. Hi, Kevin.
Hi, guys. How are you doing?
We're all right. Ottawa Hornets supporters group. Who knew? How many of you are there?
There's close to about 10 of us, I guess, but we're always growing all the time. Like, there's a big bunch of lads who we just typically go down the pub, watch some of the footy games, and we've got some Liverpool, Kilmarnock, Rangers, Middlesbrough, all those teams as well. But they all have a soft spot for Watford, and we're growing. A bunch of us came over and watched a few games last year, the FA Cup final, and a couple of games at Vicarage Road as well. So yeah.
So you don't sound like you originate from Canada necessarily. So you Watford born and bred and then headed over that way?
That's right. Yep. Born in Watford, raised in around about the Hairbreaks area. And then, around about 21, I went off and did some backpacking, met a Canadian girl in Australia. And we had a choice between Watford and Ottawa and ended up in Ottawa. I've been here ever since. So I've been here about 20 odd years now.
Oh, wow. And do you get to come back for games very much, or is it very much just on the telly you keep up with us?
Well, we watch tons on the TV. Like over here, we get every game anyway. But normally a couple of times a year. Like last year, the FA Cup came back for the Bournemouth game, which was a 0-0 ball draw. But like every time I typically come over as well, Watford don't normally score. But we come over at least once or twice a year.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's growing. Like the last time 8 of us came over to watch the game.
Allan, I saw you giggling away there when he mentioned the ball draw.
Yeah,
How bad is that? Travel all that way and they can't even put the ball in the net for you. Unbelievable.
Well, and then the game before that was the FA Cup final, which fantastic day, but 6-0. Yeah.
Yeah, another one. I hope you're not in England today, are you?
No.
Yeah,
exactly.
Stay away.
We're out on the deck in Canada, 30-degree weather, and a load of the lads are coming over to watch the game later.
Oh, lovely. Kevin, we've been talking quite a bit tonight about the 1999 playoff final. Have you got memories of that?
I do. Actually, I only just came to Canada, and I think we had the dial-up internet, and so I managed to listen to the game on the commentary, and obviously cracking goal there by Allan as well. It was a fantastic time. Being promoted for the first time as well, up to the Premier League. So fantastic,
Yeah, Allan, it's what we were saying earlier. In your action, your goal there has given fans like Kevin memories for life, whether it was through dial-up internet or not.
Yeah,
Kevin, I'm just delighted that you weren't there on the day.
Yeah, I know. No chance of even a goal, let alone a beauty bicycle kick.
Kevin, tell us a bit more about the Premier League football in Canada. I mean, it's obviously growing and growing and growing, but just how big is it? I mean, if you're wearing your Watford shirt, do people generally know who we are?
Yeah, for sure. Especially the Premier League's given us a lot more exposure. I must admit, in Canada, you've always got a lot of Liverpool and Man United fans and all that sort of thing. But Watford are definitely getting better known. My license plate is actually Watford, and just a year ago, I was at the traffic lights, and a guy wound down the window, and he just love your license plate. And I looked at his license plate, and his was WAT number 4RD. So there's a few Watford fans just in even Ottawa. I think the Premier League over here, it's becoming more and more popular, and we actually have access to every single game, so it's even better than the UK. When it gets to as far as the coverage is concerned, but no, I think Watford are getting more and more popular, and like I said, even though I've got a bunch of buddies who support a various bunch of different teams, they've all got a little soft spot for Watford, and I think we're just getting more and more popular, and hopefully we can stay up and just keep this little thing going.
Yeah, absolutely. Just before you go, Kevin, there's love coming in for you on the chat. We've got Dave M that says, Kev Parker, what a guy. Tessa says, good to have you back home virtually, Kevin. Before you leave us tonight, then, prediction. Go on, Kevin. What do you think?
I'm all out praying, hoping for a 2-1 win. I think it's going to be a real tough game. We've got to try and keep Antonio quiet. And obviously, I think Capu's going to be a big loss. But hopefully 2-1. 2-1 the Horns.
All right. Well, fingers crossed. Go and enjoy the game. Thank you so much for joining us. And keep those Ottawa Hornets growing. Keep recruiting.
There we go. All right. Take care, guys.
Cheers,
Thanks.
Kevin.
See ya.
That was Kevin Parker from the Ottawa Hornets. Great to have him on. Now, as we discussed a little bit earlier, Stuart has close connections to both of this evening's teams. The current Watford under-23 coach Hayden Mullins made 213 appearances for West Ham as a player in a 5.5-year spell with the Hammers. He joined us this week to talk about his old club, and also told us about the sense of calm and control that Nigel Pearson has brought to the Hornets' fight for Premier League survival.
The new stadium, it's a fantastic arena. The atmosphere is not there yet for me. It's one where the crowd are a little bit too far away from the pitch. But in terms of the arena itself, it's a fantastic place to play football, which sometimes I think it lends to the opposition when they turn up there, like a Man City or an Arsenal, or a team that like to dominate possession on a nice big pitch in a nice arena. It kind of it favours the opposing team sometimes, if you know what I mean. Whereas Upton Park used to be a little bit tighter, a little bit more intimidating, which was good for us as the home team, and we could really drum up a bit of noise and support from the crowds.
People talk a lot about mentality, nerve, I guess confidence. Are all those things part of what you need as a player when you're in that sort of situation to get yourself out of it? Yeah,
I mean, when you're in the situation, that we were back in then, it does take a lot of character and nerve, but I think players show that most games when they go out and play on the field, it's a different kind of pressure, if you know what I mean. It's a pressure where sometimes you start getting yourself into a situation where only wins count, and that's the pressure, like you say, which is hard to deal with sometimes. I mean, a little setback, like a goal or a missed opportunity or a missed penalty can set the whole team back some way, and sometimes it's the team effort. It's not the individuals as such. Sometimes it's the team, you know, and individuals can try and pull each other through it, but if you've got 2 or 3 that are kind of not with it, then sometimes that's the big factor.
You mentioned sort of little setbacks, and I guess moving on to Watford, we've perhaps had those in the last couple of games and recovered from them. What does that say about perhaps the group we've got here, and does that stand us in good stead for these last 3 games?
Yeah, I think, you know, the group that we've got is a fantastic group. Loads of characters in there. And I think if we didn't have those type of characters, there's no way we would have come back from the results, you know, from where we were in the last 2 games. And I think also, in times like this, it's a team that hits form at the right time, that go on and kind of find themselves okay. And it was similar to us back then in 2006. We found form at the right time, we found the wins at the right time, and it kind of carries you through. And I think us at the moment, coming off the back of 2 wins where we were behind, Troy stepping up to take 2 penalties in 1 game to get us a win in a pressure game. I think sometimes those are the little differences you see in teams, and the momentum that you need, and what we're gathering at the moment is fantastic. And you know, the boys have shown character since, you know, the manager's come in, to be fair, and to get from where we were in December to where we are now is, you know, it's fantastic, and they deserve all the credit they get at the moment, but it's not finished.
You mentioned the manager, you're working really closely with him, and of course the experience he's got in situations like these, which is well documented, but just how has he passed on that experience to both you as staff and dealt with this pressure with the players?
Yeah, it's fantastic, you know, to see how he works in this kind of environment and pressure is brilliant. He kind of soaks it all up from the players. He wants them to go out and express themselves, you know, while having a responsibility to the club. You know, there is that kind of fine margin, but he's brilliant. I think in terms of what they need at the moment is exactly what Nigel's given them, you know. And at times it's not always going to work, you know, but what we've seen in the last 2 games has been absolutely fantastic for us. And, you know, I'm sure going into this West Ham game, we'll have a lot of confidence behind us. You know, we'll be going there with a lot of confidence, with players where we know we can hurt them as well. And it's just, you know, getting the balance right, the licence to go and attack while looking after what happens at the back.
Stuart, I'll be really interested to get your thoughts on Watford's recent form, because whilst West Ham come into this having effectively flattened Norwich, they'll be very confident. I suppose Watford have just shown some real character in their games, having gone behind twice. What do you think West Ham's take on that will be, the kind of spirit that Watford is showing going into this game?
Yeah, don't score first. Don't score first. Yeah, I think that's a Nigel Pearson character, isn't it? I think that's what he instills in his teams. Obviously, never give up, play to 90 minutes. I think West Ham will have to be on their guard. I mean, because, you know, Watford, both teams have got some good players that can hurt teams. They are there for a reason in the bottom 4 or 5. But consistency, I think, has been a big key. So I think both teams can hurt each other. I think it's all about concentration, working hard, stopping crosses, getting in the box, both teams. Graham Taylor was a great believer, get the ball in the box as quick as you can and get bodies in the box. And he's dead right. If you get the ball in the box and you've got bodies in the box, you're going to create problems. And I think, you know, West Ham have to be aware of that the mentality of Watford has massively improved in the last couple of games.
Yeah, Alan, when you're looking at where Watford can hurt West Ham this evening, it does seem as though there is more of a threat there from Watford, and the balance is a bit better since the introduction of Welbeck with Deeney and Sarr.
Yeah, and I think it's quite exciting. I think there's a bit of everything. You've got the power, you've got the aggression of Deeney. You can hold it up, you can link. You've got the Gale of Welbeck. He can finish. He's got everything in his game, Welbeck. It's just obviously he's just had a bit of a hard time with injuries. I don't think anybody's going to do that. And you've got Sarr, the performance against Liverpool. And I think you've hit the nail on the head, Stu. I think on any given day, either team can beat anybody in the division. And it is just a case of who is going to turn up on the day. And I think both teams look as if they've got a goal threat, but equally both teams look as if they can concede as well. So I think, again, you've alluded to Nigel Pearson. I think he's been the best signing that the club's made for a long time. I think they're in a far better position than they've ever been in that position for a long time. And I think there will be a fruit of that. If he can keep them in the division, he is absolutely ripped up trees, and they've got a perfect opportunity to put it to bed tonight.
Tezza says, I fancy a big game from Deeney tonight. How wary do you think they are of Troy Deeney, Stuart? I mean, everyone knows about Troy now, but going into a big game like this, it does seem that he likes turning up on the big occasion.
Yeah, and I think especially West Ham as well. Obviously, London Stadium, the last couple of games he's played at London Stadium, I think the fans have given him, West Ham fans have given him absolutely dog's abuse, and he's responded to it. You know, he's one of them that loves that sort of pressure, that sort of, he loves it all. And his aggression, like Al said, his link-up play, his hold-up play, and, you know, he's a handful. He'll be a real handful. So on his day, you know, he's going to be unplayable for teams.
Well, just short of 15 minutes to go until kick-off. So now it is time to hear from Ismaïla Sarr, who has been one of Watford's standout performers this season since his club record, I should say, from Rennes in 2019. He told Hornets Hive how confidence is high amongst the team after 2 back-to-back victories against Norwich and Newcastle.
How confident is the squad feeling? Because there were 2 massive victories, weren't they? Both against Norwich and then against Newcastle as well. Could you take us through the mood?
Ça va faire du bien de gagner les 2 matchs passés parce qu'on a besoin de gagner. Parce qu'il y avait des équipes derrière nous qui se battent pour prendre notre place. Nous aussi, on ne les laisse pas faire. Ça va faire du bien. Ça nous donne un peu de confiance pour terminer cette saison en restant en Premier League.
Could I ask you about your playing position? How much are you enjoying being part of that front 3? Because it's almost like a triangle, isn't it, with yourself? Danny Welbeck has obviously come back into the spotlight. And then there's Troy Deeney. Could you tell us about that?
Ouais, moi, de ma part, si on met n'importe qui, moi je me sens bien parce que j'ai fait mon boulot, j'ai fait mon taf. Après, voilà, parce que les 2 devant, c'est des gros attaquants. Ils marquent des buts, voilà. Moi, de ma part, on met Welbeck ou Maxime. Je fais mon travail, je me sens très bien avec tout le monde.
Comment come in from, remember, we are a family club, come on you Horns. It says 15 minutes until hiding behind the second sofa. Now, I don't think you're going to be alone there. Now, we have discussed the fact that the Hornets go into this evening's game looking for their 3rd win in a row. And just because we are currently playing behind closed doors, it doesn't mean that we haven't been able to enjoy the last 2 winning performances against Norwich and Newcastle, respectively. Take a look at this.
10 minutes for the Hornets to try and find the winner, and they might find themselves getting another penalty. They have.
Penalty! No!
Newcastle United have
another one!
2 penalties in this game.
Oh my God! Another penalty! Yeah! You said, didn't you, Sarr? Holly, quick!
It is Deeney against Dubravka, part 2.
Come on, Troy, come on! You can do it, Troy!
And Deeney has scored again. He has gone down the middle again. And he is preparing Watford potentially.
Yes! Yes! Oh, Jesse! Yes! Good job, Troy! Good job, Captain! Good job!
Now, our players do follow our social media accounts. They will have seen that. In fact, I'm almost sure I've seen Ben Foster directly comment underneath one of those Gogglebox videos. But Stuart, obviously it's so difficult without fans in stadiums at the moment for the players. But how much of a lift do you think they're going to get from content like that?
Yeah, I think it always helps. I mean, we alluded earlier on. I mean, look at the pictures there, people. What enjoyment you give, satisfaction, scoring goals, creating goals, losing. It's just an absolutely emotional roller coaster. But when me and Al played, we didn't realise it was like that. Now we're on the other. We're retired all these years. You don't realise how I feel that tonight, and I'm sure that other people feel that tonight, that the emotions that you can give people, the happiness, the sadness, the anxiety in just a game of football, it's just amazing what football does.
Is that true, Allan? Would you say it's not until you're on the other side of it you don't really appreciate just how much people can be affected by whether you win on a Saturday or not?
Yeah, I would say that I don't think I realised how many people sort of eat, drink and sleep the football, and it just magnifies how the game is nothing without the spectators in the stadium. It's absolutely nothing, and you could say that the performance levels maybe don't hit the heights, and that the players need the crowd to play up to. And you're looking at it there, and it's fantastic scenes and fantastic emotion. Which you miss that you don't get that as a player. You don't see it. You are totally focused, and it's a selfish sport when you play. You don't really think of the fans. You think about where you're playing next and why you're not playing. You just that's the format you're in, and you can't get too attached to the clubs either, because 9 times out of 10 you're going to be leaving it at some stage, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Well, don't forget that the Hornets Hive will be live with you in the lead up to every Premier League match day. So we're going to be there for our final 2 after tonight's fixture against West Ham. So do be sure to join us even at 5 o'clock on Tuesday, the 21st of July, ahead of that 6 o'clock kickoff as Watford play host to Pep Guardiola's Manchester City. And we can tell you that joining us for Tuesday's show, we're very much looking forward to giving a big Hornets Hive welcome to David James. So don't miss that one. But as for tonight, let's turn our attention back on to this evening's game. Stuart, just bringing it back to empty stadiums, how much are those West Ham players going to miss having a full London stadium on such a huge night?
Yeah, much has been said about the London stadium. It hasn't got that atmosphere. It's quite open and big, not like Upton Park where it was compact and that. But on a game like this, regardless of what people say, it's a massive game. The fans would be so up for it, knowing what's at stake. The intimidation. I mean, obviously, that's what we said about earlier about Troy Deeney. He would relish that. But I think the buzz, that obviously how much it means to the fans, when they're there. But the atmosphere will be absolutely electric tonight, and I'm sure that, and that's going to be missed. And that makes it a level playing field tonight, definitely.
Yeah. Keep your predictions coming in using the chat function. Still got 5 minutes to go until kick-off at London Stadium. We've had someone get in touch saying, I reckon a draw tonight, but Evan, my son, reckons 2-1 to the Hornets. James says, we really need to win this game, and we certainly can. Come on, you Horns. Just a reminder of tonight's team news once more. One change for either side. So for the Hornets, Etienne Capoue misses this one with a hamstring issue. So Tom Cleverley will come in for him. As for West Ham, likewise, one change. It's at right back. So Ben Johnson, the youngster, I think just 20 years old, he'll be coming in for right back regular Ryan Fredericks. Allan, just a quick word on this Watford side. It'd be quite interesting just seeing Hughes and Cleverley in the same 11, because usually it's one or the other.
Yeah, because they like to advance, but going forward, they could certainly bring more of a threat, more creativity in the final third. And I think that can only be a good thing, especially in a game like tonight. And I think West Ham concede goals. So going into that sort of final third and servicing that front three, as it will be when they're in possession, like I said earlier, there's a threat all over the park tonight. I felt in the Chelsea game I watched last, that maybe wasn't there. There's also a threat at set pieces. And, you've got a young fullback making his debut. Whilst I would think that Dave will not be taking a chance with a young kid. You might get free kicks. You might get free kicks off him in cheap areas, and they could be key. I know I'm just making guesses, but I mean there's certainly areas that you know that the dressing room will be focusing on before the game tonight.
Sorry,
go on.
Instead of Cleverly, who would normally play with Hughes? Would they pair somebody else up rather than Cleverly Hughes? Like you said, it's not normally a match that they would normally have. Obviously, if Capoue was there, I mean, is it the first time that they've played together, really?
You wouldn't usually see them in the same lineup, so I think it would be quite intriguing. Usually, you might see one change for the other, say after an hour. So it will be interesting to see how they function both on the pitch at the same time. Now, Stuart, we need to pick your brains because Antonio, there's obviously a lot of chat, a lot of excitement around him. But are there any other players that perhaps don't get talked about as much, but we should be wary of?
Well, I think Bowen's come in and he's done a really good job for somebody that's been in the Championship. He's obviously, he's done really, really well with his crosses, assists, his work ethic. Souček, again, another player that's come in. The two players that they've brought in, obviously, probably not as talented as Lanzini and Anderson and maybe Haller, but they've got the work ethic and they're a threat. They're a goal threat. And I'll always remember, Graham Taylor saying to me about my end product. Where's your end product? And these sort of players have got an end product. Whereas, Anderson and Lanzini, good technical players, great technical players that are pleasing to the eye. And probably that's what I got quite. But have they got an end product at the minute? And they haven't had that end product. So those two players, certainly, since the restart, they've had an end product and they'll be ones to watch tonight.
Well, the teams are just emerging at the London Stadium now. So we're going to say goodbye until the second half. We will be back at halftime, even with the views of both Alan Smart and Stuart Slater. We'll be analysing that first 45. Due to broadcasting rights, halftime will be audio only from the studio. But do remember to send through your messages via the watch along text function, and we'll put as many of those as possible to both Stuart and Alan during the break. So for now, sit back, enjoy the game if you can via your usual broadcast feed. If you are unable to watch a live feed, the next voices you will hear are the familiar tones of John Marks and Derek Payne for exclusive commentary of tonight's game. So final messages coming in. James says Watford 8, West Ham 0. Paul Fiander Turner reckons Watford can win this 3-2. And one final message coming in. All Horns around the world and other planets believe. Come on, you Horns. How about that as a message for support? We'll see you at halftime. So half-time at London Stadium then, it is West Ham 3, Watford 0. Former Hornets Alan Smart and Stuart Slater are back with us to analyse that first 45. Do keep your comments and your questions coming in using the chat function. And remember, however frustrated you might be, understandably so, but do remember to keep them clean and respectful if you would like them featured as part of the Hornets Hive. Alan, didn't see that coming. Pretty difficult to watch that first 45, wasn't it?
I think it was. I think it's a game of fine margins, though. I think actually at 2-0, in a bizarre sense, the way the game was getting played, you're thinking it's not the worst game to be in because you look as if you've got chances. And I think Sarr's been a constant threat. I think the third goal was just taking the sting right out of the game. And obviously, West Ham look home and dry. But for me, the first 20, 25 minutes, it was like a game of basketball. You attack, we attack, and the teams were wide open, probably contrary to what we thought before the game. And Sarr has been a threat, and that's the big positive for me. I think Ben Foster will be really disappointed at halftime. I think the first one, he's moving his feet, he's not set. And then obviously on the third one, I think he gets caught. I think he's expecting a cross. And it's a great finish from Declan Rice. It's a fantastic finish, but to be beat standing on your feet or on your knee, you'd be disappointed that he's not a full stretch and diving. And it's you know, unfortunately, that's the position of a goalkeeper, sadly.
On the subject of Declan Rice, Simon England says Declan Rice is the difference here so far. Stuart, I suppose the difference for West Ham is, as Allan sort of alluded to there, they're taking their chances. I think 3 shots on target, 3 goals.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, great saying, hit the target. If you don't hit the target, you don't score a goal. So they've hit the target on those occasions. And fortunately for West Ham, they've gone in. Unfortunately for Watford, that hasn't. Like our alluded, Sarr's got up the other end, and obviously Fabianski saved with his feet. The other end, obviously Foster let it go through his legs. So, yeah, they'd be disappointed in those goals. The second goal as well for the header, Bowen's got a free entry into the box where all they've got to do in the final third, you've got to close that ball down, stop the crosses coming in. We spoke about it earlier on before the game that West Ham have done really well with Souček and Antonio getting Bowen the crosses in and bodies in the box. And, you know, you've got to do so much better to stop that cross going in.
I've had a comment from Flix F saying Foster has been poor after the break. Allan, it's very difficult to criticise Ben Foster. He brings so much to this football club on and off the pitch, but particularly on the pitch this season. He's saved us so many crucial points. Could he have done perhaps a little bit better on particularly the first couple of goals? I mean, the third one, granted, Declan Rice has hit that really well, hasn't he?
Yeah, and I think, look, it's a 45-minute analysis. It's not 45 games. It's not an overview of him as a person. Ask him himself what he'd be thinking at this moment in time. He will be feeling that he should have done better. He's way better than the first one. I'm expecting him to get his legs in the way, minimum. And you would expect him 9 times out of 10. You give him another 10 shots like that with Antonio striking the ball off his left side, I reckon he saves the majority. And I think the second one, I think Welbeck, you get a forward in that defensive area. And I know myself, yeah, you get back, you do the hard yards, you get goal side. The actual hard yards is the 2 yards to the ball. And that's the margin that gives Bowden just that little bit of leverage to get the left foot in. And it's a great, he's attacked the ball ever so well. But I think I'm looking at Firmino. Is it Firmino at right back? He should be blocking him at the penalty spot. He should be out getting contact with the forward. He lets him run in unopposed, and it's a free header, and he's ducking down as the ball's headed into the net. There's more criticism on the fullback, I think, on that one. And it's fine margins because it could easily have been 3-2 at half-time. And I think it's a very difficult team talk because if you've gone away from home and you've had 2 or 3 efforts in the first half, you'd probably be fairly happy. And given the strikes and the distance of the strikes, you think 9 times out of 10 Ben Foster would come out on top there. So it's a difficult team talk because you can see the motivation in the forwards. Troy Deeney looked, with 15 minutes to go, he looked disheartened. And I think we were always taught as forwards, you can really drain your team if you don't get about the game with enthusiasm and if you look disappointed if you give the ball away. I think it's a major 15 minutes for the team to come out and actually get about the game and try and score the next goal. That's all they can do. Try and get the next goal in the game.
Yeah, a couple of comments coming in about the way Watford are going forward. User 7812 says, so far Troy and Danny have seemed quiet. Sarr, though, very much in the game. Stuart, on that, I was sat with you watching that game in the same room, and even as West Ham went 2 or 3 up, you still looked a bit nervy when Sarr did get the ball going forward. So do you feel there is still very much a threat there with him whilst he's still on the pitch?
Yeah, like Al said, I think, initially it was like a basketball match. I think, it was quite loose from both sides. And, I still think there's definitely opportunities in the second half. Obviously, Watford have got to go out there and they've got nothing to lose, basically. Obviously, goal difference is a key factor now, but I mean, they're 3-0 down. They've got to go and play with pride. And, if they can muster one of these chances up and get a goal, then, I've seen West Ham throw leads away like this. So, they've got to up it even more. Obviously, they've got nothing to lose. I was just disappointed that, that obviously all the game plan and all the talking and all the preparation, within 6 minutes, West Ham score a goal like that. And then within 15, 20 minutes, 2-0 down. And then very difficult to come back from.
Yeah, with the approach to the second half then, Allan, what do Watford do from here? Stuart mentioned it there. We've had a comment come in suggesting, goal difference is coming into play now. So what's the approach for the second 45? What should Nigel do? Do we make changes? Is it about damage limitation, or do you have to give them an opportunity to get back into it at this point? What do you think?
I actually think that he might keep it. I mean, he might keep it the same for the next 10, 15 minutes. It sounds bizarre because normally when you're 3-0 down, it's wholesale changes. I don't actually think it's a 3-0 game. West Ham haven't been 3 goals better than Watford on the day. And I think if you reflect on the game, if it boils down to individual errors and stuff like that, I think going into a game like that, that's what you don't want, a referee's decision or an individual error. And unfortunately, it may be one. You're expecting to go into the break. If you were 1-0 down, I think that would be a fair reflection. So I think it's the personnel's got to be the same because it's created chances. They've actually looked a threat, in my opinion. Going forward, if I was playing up front there, I'm thinking, you know what, we've got half a chance here. The service hasn't been bad. We've broke up the park at the right times. Unfortunately, defensively, we've only given away as much as West Ham have given away, but they've converted.
Would you agree with that, Stuart? Or are we looking at this through Watford's stained glasses? Would you agree that perhaps Watford are in this game more than the scoreline would suggest, and actually perhaps it's a little bit generous?
I think they've got to really start really well with the first 15 minutes, second half. I think Moyes will be telling the West, obviously you've got to keep it tight now for the first 15, 20 minutes. Let's run the clock down. Take the sting out of the game. And just sort of let Watford's heads drop a little bit because obviously time will be on West Ham's side. But what disappoints me is West Ham haven't really had to work hard for their goals, and that's the disappointing thing. Had you said that was fantastic play, brilliant, skill, but it hasn't been like that, and that's the three goal scoring opportunities have resulted in 3 goals, and that would be a disappointing thing from the Watford point of view.
Well, away from tonight, there are still 2 games left. So on that note, don't forget that the Hornets Hive is live in the lead up to every Premier League match day. Do be sure to join us 5 o'clock on Tuesday, 21st of July. That's ahead of the 6 o'clock kickoff as Watford will be playing host to Pep Guardiola's Manchester City. For now, though, let's continue focusing on tonight's game. Still 45 minutes to go. In terms of personnel then, Allan, you said perhaps don't change things, persevere for sort of 10, 15 minutes. But a few comments coming in suggesting otherwise. Perhaps an opportunity for Andre Gray tonight. João Pedro, I think, has been mentioned in every game since the restart so far. I think some fans feel he may have a role to play, possibly. What's your take on that?
I think Andre Gray has to come into the fold at some time. I think that will happen. And it depends what the scoreline does. It depends what's happening in the next 15 minutes because it could be any one of 8 or 9. But all they can do is get out and attack the half and press the ball and stay with runners. That's all you can do as a player. You go out there and you've got to leave the scoreline in the dressing room at the moment, and you've got to score the next goal in the game, and that's it. And see where that takes you. At this moment in time, 3 points are in West Ham's pocket. Watford have got no opportunity in the realms of football. You've kind of written this off, but you can play sort of relaxed. But I also think West Ham can relax as well. So it's a psychological thing. If you get the first goal in the next 10, 15 minutes, it definitely changes the dynamic of the game. But they have to score.
Yeah. Stuart, with that, as comfortable as it looks for West Ham at the moment, they won't be complacent, will they?
They shouldn't be. And I think Dave Moyes has been there, seen it, done it for a long, long time. That would be one of the things that he'll be talking about in the half-time break. You can't be complacent. Keep the ball, keep doing what we're doing, get the ball forward as much as we can. Obviously, get Antonio on the ball. He's causing problems no matter what. Obviously, he can pin it, run in the channels, you name it, and just be in Watford's half a lot of the time. So I think that will be the plan for West Ham. Watford have just got to get out West Ham. They've just got to get some tackles in, get close, get tight, like I was saying, and just get amongst them and go for it.
And there's no way on earth that they thought they'd be 3-0 up at this point. There's no way on earth they were thinking that going into the game. I don't think anybody would have been thinking, Moyes included, that 3-0 with 15 minutes to go in the first half.
Yeah.
You never have called that.
Yeah, I think you could see that actually on Aaron Cresswell's face. I think he went down injured at one point and was holding his nose. And you could almost see he was just absolutely buzzing. I think he was taking a moment there whilst injured just to calm down a little because the game had happened very, very quickly at that point. Right, I think it might be time to hand back to our commentary team for the second half. We have had a comment from, remember, we are a family club, come on you Horns. I hope Nigel throws the kitchen sink teacups in the dressing room and see what happens. Well, yes, we will see what happens. Still a big 45 minutes of football ahead. Allan and Stuart will be joining us once more at full time, but as it stands at London Stadium, Watford do trail West Ham by 3-0. So it is time to hand you back to our commentary team now. Familiar voices in John Marks and Derek Payne. So finish then at London Stadium, West Ham 3, Watford 1 in the end. Troy Deeney's second half goal, giving us a little bit of a lifeline early on, but ultimately unable to capitalise on any further chances. Alan Smart and Stuart Slater are back with us to analyse that second half and the performance as a whole and where that leaves us in the bigger picture. Alan, it was improved, wasn't it, that second 45, but ultimately just not enough.
It was, yeah, and I think the third goal was the killer, obviously in the game and the momentum. But yeah, they come right out the blocks. I think they score within about 3 or 4 minutes, and I actually looked for a spell. You think, go on, get at them, because they look as if they were rocking a little bit, and they needed the second goal. Created a couple of good opportunities. I think Andre Gray's got a great chance at the front post with a header, and it ends up hitting well. Bet you can't blame him, but it looked like it was a good chance for him. And I thought they were a constant threat going forward, to be fair, over the piece. And just, you know what, if we're talking about Foster, what an unbelievable save he pulls out. And it just, sadly, it didn't affect the scoreline, but a fantastic save in the second half to keep that lob out of the net.
Number of fans disappointed getting in touch via the chat function. Merlin says very poor performance. Paul says chalk and cheese performance. Why can't we start every game like the second half? Played so much better in the second half. But boys, it's 90 minutes. Stuart, it's no secret you obviously spent 3 good years at Watford, but ultimately you are a Hammer at heart. So first of all, congratulations, as the commentary team said on Sky. It does look now as if West Ham are almost safe. But I think it's fair to say we watched that second half together, and there were a few hairy moments if you're a West Ham fan. Watford were very much in that second half.
Yeah, it certainly was, Emma. Yeah, fair play to West Ham. Survived. Probably a disappointing season for them. Obviously, the expectations were a lot higher, so well done to West Ham. Gutted for Watford. I mean, obviously at the minute, because obviously they're right in it now. I still think they've got enough about them to get out of it, because obviously there's no way that I want to see Watford go down the Championship. You know, I want them staying in. I want to come to a couple of games next season with my Watford friends and watch a couple of games. Yeah, that was a disappointing result and performance really tonight.
Yeah, I mean, that's it though, Alan, as Stuart's touched on there. It is still in our hands. I know that's obviously very disappointing, but it's all square now in terms of where everyone's at with the matches that they've played going into the penultimate round of fixtures. And Watford do still have the advantage. Yes, Manchester City are up next. Yes, it's going to be a difficult game, but we go into that round of fixtures 3 points better off than the teams below us.
That's very true. I still feel that they're going to need favours. I think they're going to hope that West Ham maybe do them a favour and somebody else digs a result out. I just think they're the toughest 2 fixtures of the teams, and that's not being pessimistic. It's been realistic. This was their opportunity to put it to bed tonight. They'll be bitterly disappointed because they're better than the performance in the first half. There's no doubt. I think they might get something at Arsenal, but it's in the lap of the gods. Whilst it is in their hands, I've got to be honest, if I was playing Manchester City and Arsenal in the last two games, you have got to be better than you've been tonight. That's for sure. Like's been said, it's 95 minutes, the game. You've got to start with impetus, zest. I don't know. What did he say at halftime that he didn't say before the game? Did he actually tell them that it was a proper game tonight and there was serious things at stake? Why did it take to halftime?
No. Stuart, what's your thoughts on that? What do you think it was? Do you think that perhaps there was something pretty strong said at half-time and that was the penny drop moment, or just Watford grew into the game? What's your perspective?
I think, being 3-0 down at half-time, I don't think you need to say too much. Obviously, there's 11 players out there and they underperformed in the first half. That's for sure. What was disappointing, though, the magnitude of the game. And the game was sort of won within the first 30 minutes, and that would be disappointing for a Watford point of view, that you go, hang on a minute, at least, you had a go, but within the first 30 minutes, the game was sort of, though we said at half-time, if Watford do get one back, then, it is West Ham. They are in the position that they're in because obviously they haven't killed off games like they've done. But, that would have been a disappointing thing, that the hype of the game, the magnitude of the game, the stakes at value, and they were out of the game within the first 30 minutes, and that would have been a big disappointment for me, being at Watford.
Yeah, Wes says we need to galvanise, knuckle down, and show everybody what Watford FC is all about. Allan, is there any sort of positive to be taken, the fact that we do have Manchester City next? They're huge opposition, and they will know they have to be on their A game, just for damage limitation, if nothing else, because goal difference is a huge factor here too.
They're one of the few teams that have beaten Liverpool this season. They only have to reflect on that performance, because that night they were worth the win. They were magnificent on the night, and really, if they're going to reflect on anything, that group of players will be bitterly disappointed with the performance, because they're a better group than that. I personally didn't feel it was 3 at halftime. I didn't feel it was a game that was 3 goals difference between the performance. And at the end of the game, I don't think there's much between the teams. They're at the bottom of the table for a reason, because even at 3-0, West Ham they look as if they were susceptible. And when Watford nick a goal just after half time, you're thinking, oh, which way is this going to turn? That's because they're operating at that area in the league. So, yeah, what can they salvage? Well, they had a little bit of fight. They had a go. And I think away from home, they must have had at least 10, 15 efforts on target or in the opponent's box. I think you'd be quite happy with that. Unfortunately, you've conceded. You haven't conceded loads of chances, but yeah, I think that's the positive. And also, the champions have been magnificent this season, Liverpool, and Watford were that was one of the strongest, if not the best performance I've seen from a Watford team for a long, long time. And they've got that's the one thing I say going into these 2 games, they've got to just treat them as one-off games and say, look, on your day you can beat anybody in the division.
Well, yes, we will see you next on Tuesday evening. That huge, huge game at Vicarage Road. The Hornets Hive will be back live in the lead up to that kickoff. That's Tuesday, the 21st of July. We'll be live from 5 p.m. Ahead of a 6 o'clock kickoff. Watford hosting Pep Guardiola's Manchester City. But for now, for tonight, that does bring us to the end of the show. So to Allan and to Stuart Slater. Actually, I think one thing we can all agree on here, Allan, your shirt is definitely navy now. Quite bizarrely. I don't know how that's happened.
From Scotland,
He's changed it.
I'm wondering if it's like a mood ring and just changes kind of depending on, like, now the nerves have gone. I don't know. You'll have to
it's
wear it.
Maybe related to the blood temperature. It was maybe one of them. Yeah, before the game, I had boiling blood, and it just, as I watched it, I just got cooler and cooler as the night unwound.
Well, we've had a request here. One of the final comments we'll mention: get pink shirt back in. There we go. A request for next time, Allan. But thank you very much to both of you for tonight. That's Allan Smart and Stuart Slater that have been with us.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
No worries.
Thanks a lot.
And we hope you've enjoyed the show despite the result. And we do look forward to seeing you back here once more for all the build-up on Tuesday evening. Good night.